protects disabled adults and ensures that we don't have arbitrary decision making. The whole point of the scheme is to prevent decisions being arbitrary and to ensure that individual needs are met. So as I say here, the duty is to assess needs, decide the business so to meet those needs, i.e. whether the person's eligible and able to provide the services. Now, eligibility criteria themselves are lawful. We know, again, known as valid. And what we've got now under prioritising need is very similar to what we had under facts, which is 4 bands of need: low, moderate, substantial, high, and you're entitled as an authority to choose which bands provide services. So the assessment has to determine what the person falls within that spectrum. And most authorities now are providing it substantial and critical. Some are still providing it moderate, substantial and critical. As far as I know, only one is providing it low. So only significantly disabled people are eligible for a service at all, because even moderate is a fairly high level of need. And where local authorities, for example Birmingham, the largest local authority in the country, are trying to move at the moment from substantial to critical, what they're effectively doing is they're only going to provide services at all to those who are extremely vulnerable with immediate effect. To take an example, under the substantial band, eligibility arises if the disabled person has been or may be abused. Under the critical band, the test is that the abuse was serious. So a local authority that's only going to need provide a critical is saying we're not going to provide services to people who've just been abused. They have to be able to demonstrate that the abuse was serious, whatever that means. So the reason I point this out in the context of personalisation is that those individuals with low-level needs are not eligible at all anyway. We're only talking about very severely disabled people having any access to service in the current system at all. And so the need for there to be fairness, transparency in the process is even greater, because a lot of those individuals will not be able to self-advocate, will only be able to advocate with very significant support, which they may not get. And so how are they supposed to be able to tell whether a budget that seems to have been plucked out of the air is a rationally connected figure that meets their needs? So as you can tell, I'm very concerned about the continued growth and prevalence of personalisation. I have absolutely no problem with the underpinning principle, which is choice and control. That's clearly right. But the reality of its application is it's being used to drive through reductions in service packages and to try and create some kind of consistency which doesn't allow often for individual needs to be met. The only... how do you address
yes.
a local authority who doesn't really agree with your policy?
The only way you can get an independent assessment done is to pay for it, either by yourself or it's a disbursement that can be obtained through legal aid. So if you can get legal aid in your case, one of the things that you can do, if necessary, is get expert reports, including from independent social workers. And there are a number of independent social workers who will do community care assessments on behalf of families. The other issue, of course, which needs to be thought about is the role of the court protection in these kinds of cases, because most people with autism, their capacity to make decisions will at the very least be an issue, and if they're not capable of making significant decisions, then the court can decide what's in their best interests. And in determining what's in their best interest, it can require expert reports, independent experts, jointly instructed often, between, for example, the local authority, the PCT and the parent. So that's another possible route to go down, is to, if you feel that the assessment isn't accurately reflecting the person's needs, challenge the decision that comes from it as being not in their best interests, and go to the court protection and seek declarations and reports that will assist. The High Court will interfere with assessments that are completed by local authorities, but the bar's pretty high. There's a significant amount of case law that says that if you're dealing with detail of assessments, that's not suitable for judicial review. You have to complain, go through the local authority complaint procedure, and you have to go to the ombudsman. But if there's a substantial omission, or if it just doesn't reflect the reality of the person's situation, then the High Court would potentially quash that assessment and require it to be done again. Any other questions about personalisation before we move on? Okay.
Just to see what your opinion is about this, Steve, really. But I think personalisation is a bit like email, isn't it? It's very, very good and very, very bad. The great problem with personalisation, it seems to me, apart from it being arguably the excuse to try to spend less money per person, is that on the supply side, on the provider side, there is absolutely no habitude of publishing your prices.
Yes.
And actually, the great majority of local authority social workers know very little about what things cost.
That's right.
Because the way in which local government has always been constructed since 74 is that social workers are usually fairly distant from the purchasing and payment processes. Some are not, but the majority are not. And actually, as providers, very few people speak about what they charge, really. Partly because it's often a terrifyingly large sum of money, frankly, and also because these are all quiet deals that are done with purchasers, frankly, who understand what things cost. And it seems to me, it would be interesting to view on this, it seems to me one of the obligations on the provider side is to be much more transparent about what specialist services really cost, because it would actually empower families to know if somebody comes on and says, well, you can have 13 quid an hour and you can have 20 hours a week, to say that isn't even funny. You know, if you want to go to court, we're going the right way about it. Because I've got this booklet or this access to a website that tells me what I need for my son or daughter is going to cost at least 70,000 a year. So let's start there.
That's right. I think that's a very good point, Andrew. I made two observations about pricing and transparency, costing and so on. The first is that the law again is clear that the duty is to provide a sufficient and adequate service, and if there are a number of options on the table and there's variation in cost, the authority is entitled to choose the cheapest option so long as that complies with both the assessed needs and also wider human rights obligations. So providers have an interest in transparency because if they don't tell people how much things cost, they don't necessarily even get into the mix. You know, if a local authority assumes that something that they can provide is cheaper or commissioned from another organisation, then unless there's knowledge about what the alternative pricing is, they won't be able to, parents or family who have advocated for it won't be able to have the discussion. So I think that's one important point. The second is that the way, as you say, social work is being very distant from the pricing and the commissioning, the way that counterpoint seems to be calculated is based on existing packages of care. You take a sample of 200, say, cases and work out how much those packages cost, then take an average and then slice a bit off the top. It's extremely arbitrary, and you end up with a figure of £9.53 per point or whatever it might be. And because of how arbitrary that process is, we do end up in those possible situations where a family are told that their indicative budget is £36,000 a year, and everyone knows that the baseline is going to be 80, and actually what might be is 140. And that's why I think that the whole approach is frankly a farce in the more severe cases, in the more substantial cases where there's really substantial need. And if everyone knows that the young person or the adult is going to need 24-hour care, residential care, whatever it might be, what's the point of developing this indicative budget? Just work out what the options are and, frankly, choose the cheapest that can meet needs. So don't be fooled by personalisation. The legal duties don't require it to happen. Nothing, not even the guidance, says there must be a route. It's entirely optional and therefore can be ignored if it's not helpful.
Yeah, I'm exactly this situation. My son is on the very severe end, and he's 17, nearly 18, and we're going through this whole process with our social. Exactly as you say, they're trying to reduce as much as possible the cost. And all his education life, he's been home educated. So we have employed. We've had funding. We went to tribunal and got funded years ago, and we've employed all his PAs and so on over the years. But we've reached a point where that's it. We can't do it anymore. We've got another younger son, and they're trying to keep it going as it is, which would be like, as you say, like you mentioned, like 13 quid an hour. So many hours per week, have a huge battle on our hands. I mean, my husband is a very forceful. He's studying all this law stuff himself, he knows the book and all the rest of it. But how do we persuade them that we need to change to that much higher level?
Well, I should have said at the outset that I can't, unfortunately, here advise on individual cases because I'm not instructed to do so. So I'll give general thoughts on that point. The obligation, as I keep saying, is to provide something that's suitable and appropriate to meet the assessed needs. So the way to challenge anything is through an assessment.
Yeah.
And if the assessment isn't accurate and it doesn't adequately reflect the needs, then you need an independent assessment through any of the routes we were just talking about.
We have to do so many assessments.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Continuing health care
Yeah.
assessment. And the social worker doesn't want to see that.
No, well, as I say, my general advice would be in situations like yours that you do need to seek legal advice, but legal aid will almost certainly be available in your son's name. So the bigger point I wanted to make, the broader point, was that the placement duty, where is the person going to go, is subsequent to the assessment of the needs and the care plan. So very often people think about, and certainly this is true in education, where school first and then everything else that follows. It should actually be the other way around. It's got to be needs first, provision to meet needs, and then location. And that's the right approach to be taken. And it's challenging assessments if they're not adequate. Okay, very close to time. Very briefly on the new short breaks duty. Inserted by Section 25 of the Children and Young Persons Act 2008 amends Schedule 2 to the Children Act, which is where all the specific duties that sit under Section 17 are found. Paragraph 6 is the duty at the moment to provide services to help disabled children lead as normal a life as possible. It's a bit problematic in terms of its language, but you can see what they're getting at. And there's a new subsection now, put on the slide here. So the duty is to assist individuals who provide care for disabled children to continue to do so, or to do so more effectively by giving them breaks from caring. And there will be new regulations, which are called Breaks for Carers of Disabled Children regulations, from memory, and new guidance that supports this duty. And it's all coming into force on the 1st of April. As far as I can see, the most important new requirement will be for every area to produce a short break statement by the 1st of October. That sets out exactly what the range of short breaks is in any given area. But this new duty sits on top of the existing duties to assess children's needs, decide whether they require a service, and then provide the service to them. It doesn't alter that scheme. So what it does, hopefully, is address supply issues, because at the moment I have regular cases where the local authority can see that the child needs a service, and may even concede the amount of service that the family are calling for, but said we don't have one, there's nothing available, and of course won't order things to be done that are impossible. So if the authority can produce evidence to show that there's nothing, then at the moment they may well get away with it. What the Section 25 duty does is basically a sufficiency duty from the childcare, under the Childcare Act. So there has to now be a sufficient supply of short breaks in every area, and it will take that excuse away. So I think that's going to be its real force and power. But until we see the final guidance, of course, it won't be entirely clear how it's going to operate. Any comments or questions on the short breaks duty? I do want to talk a bit about cuts and so forth. Okay, so a few thoughts on cuts. There's a great misconception out there that lots of services to children and adults with autism and other disabled people are in some way discretionary. They're not. The vast majority of such services are provided under statutory duties. They have to be provided. So if a local authority takes money away from a particular area, that doesn't in any way negate the duty. The only relevance of resources, for example, in adult social care, is where you set your eligibility criteria. But once they're eligible, once the individual's eligible, you have to provide them with everything that they need. So there's some real problems with the approach that's being taken at the moment, because we're going to end up in situations where authorities are in court being told to do something and saying don't have the money, and that won't wash. The law doesn't allow that. There's also some other ways in which these cuts can be challenged, coming cuts can be challenged at an earlier stage. Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, now part of English law, protects the right to private life as well as the right to family life, which includes a person's ability to function socially and their psychological integrity. So any decision that's taken that interferes with those rights, which would include decisions to cut or withdraw services, have to be proportionate. They have to strike a fair balance between the rights of the individual and the rights and the interests of the wider community, including saving money. And importantly, they have to be in accordance with the law. So if there's a breach of the guidance or of common law duties like consultation, which we'll come to, then the courts may strike those cuts decisions down as well. And Article 8 also has a positive obligation. It carries a positive obligation to support family life and to compensate for the restrictions that disabled people experience. So my suggestion at the bottom there is that essentially the same test applies under Article 8 as it does under domestic law, i.e. is it necessary to provide a service? But what Article 8 gives us is a much more intense scrutiny. The courts will look much more closely at decisions that engage convention rights than they would do at other types of decisions. So it's a very powerful tool for us to use, and yet more evidence that the Human Rights Act is actually generally about people who wider society would very much want to see supported. Consultation duty is really clear and very frequently not complied with. If you consult, you have to do it properly, no matter whether or not it was a statutory obligation. And what that means is there has to be consultation at a formative stage. There has to be consultation which provides sufficient reason and sufficient information to allow for intelligent responses. You have to give people adequate time to respond. And then you have to give proper consideration to responses. Now, quite a lot of the consultations at the moment on cuts to adult social care are what decisions are being taken, for example, 2 weeks before the end of the consultation period. It's impossible to see how that can be lawful, because how can you have conscientious regard to all the responses when half the responses won't come in yet? So my question is, how many consultations that are ongoing at the moment with all of these requirements? My suggestion would be to go with UPD, and there's been a recent case, I've got on the slide now, it's Hadrula, H-A-J-R-U-L-A, Hadrula, against London councils, where the consultation duty was breached in decisions to cut services. And also, of course, the Building Schools for the Future case, where the 5 local authorities took on the Secretary of State and won on the basis there had been no consultation on the decision to close the Building Schools for the Future programme. So the courts really do take these things seriously, and what will happen if there's going to breach the consultation duty is the decision at the end will be quashed, and the body will have to go back again and consult documents. And then we have the disability equality duty, which is also very powerful and second. I mean, a lot more than 2 minutes I've got to talk about it, so in very brief terms, it's a duty to have due regard to a range of specified needs, and the most important of those are the need to promote equality of opportunity and the need to take steps to take account of disabled persons' disabilities, even where that involves treating disabled persons more favourably than others. Now, you don't have to achieve those objectives, but you do have to have due regard to them when you're making decisions. And for example, a decision that's obviously detrimental to disabled people, like reducing the amount of money in your adult social care budget, you have to show how you address those needs, perhaps in other ways. And the key case, it's going to be replaced by Section 149 of the Equality Act 2010 from the 1st of April, very similar duty. The key case is Dawn, which was a challenge to Hammersmith and Fulham's decision to start charging for adult social care services. And they did that because they'd taken a previous decision to cut council tax by 2%. And the Court of Appeal said, if you challenge the council tax decision, we might have been interested, but because you waited and challenged the decision to reduce the services or to charge, it's too late, basically. So what the Court of Appeal was inviting us to do, those of us who care about services for disabled people, is challenge the budget setting decisions. And that's actually what's now beginning to happen in some local authority areas. It requires families to get rather more involved in local government finance than they probably ever have the desire to do. But if you can get in early enough,